Sugar, thanks for taking the time out to see us. You asked what kind of questions you're going to get. One of the things Andy Lee recently said to me was how much you love your cars.
Oh yeah, I love my cars. American cars, German cars, any kind of nice car is something that I love and I have a great interest in as far as fixing them and driving them. So yeah, I love my cars.
He said, "What you had a convertible, one of the T
I've
convertibles."
got a T-top. I've got a
Yeah.
1987 Mustang GT, black, uh, pretty much original. I plan on fixing it up. I got another engine in the garage waiting on it. A nice 408 Windsor, probably about 600 horsepower. I just haven't put it in yet. Haven't had time.
And then obviously you're here. You've got this very calm demeanour and this calm manner, which I've experienced before when we were in Las Vegas before the Fury fight with Wilder. But what's it like when you go backstage at a Kings of Leon gig?
You heard about that? You know, I'm a kind of person that I don't want to say I could change it, but I adapt to my environment. If I'm at a concert, then of course I'm gonna have fun like I'm at a concert. But when I'm training fighters and boxing in that field, then it's my job. I'm more of a professional. So I get that a lot with people when they know me and then they see me do interviews on television or in public. Then they come to me and they say, who was that up there? Because they don't believe it's me. They're like, how'd you just switch up? Like, you kind of crazy, but how'd you switch up and to be talking so intelligent and to, sound so professional? So I like it. I like it. That's part of me.
But regardless of whether you're backstage at a Kings of Leon gig or you're here in Morecambe, it's a long way from being on the streets of Detroit as a cop.
Oh, yeah, it's a long way. This is relaxing for me. I'm not worried about anything. Not to say that I'm worried about it at home, but just at home, I mean, certain things happen or could happen that may not happen here.
Is it as dangerous as it sounds being a cop in Detroit, potentially?
I don't really know how to answer that because when I was a police officer, I just did my job. I know that there are dangerous situations, and I have to protect myself and my partner and those others involved in this situation. And it's just a job. It was just a job to me.
What was the scariest situation you found yourself in?
It's hard to say. I'm not one of those persons that actually thought about everything and go out after work and talking about it in the bar or talking about it with other police officers and stuff. It was just something that I did and not really remembering a whole lot unless somebody who's with me can remind me about it. Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But other than that, I really don't remember anything specific about being a police officer. That's, I guess, would be scary. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I can say that I had maybe two incidents I'll tell you about. One of them is, a run where the man has a gun, and I guess it was a draw. I pulled mine out first. So I mean, I didn't shoot him. I knew he had the weapon, but I didn't shoot him. I just told him, I said, don't do it. I said, I got you. So pretty much that's the incident. And it may seem scary, but now I'm thinking about it. The more scarier incidents for me were going into a broken a house, a B&E, a house that's been broken into, and they're saying that somebody's still in that house. Those are the scariest ones because you're going into a situation where the lights are off. Do I turn the lights on? Do I announce that I'm in the house as a police officer? It's a whole lot of things that you're thinking about. And, it's like a maze. You don't know where you are in that house. I don't know anything about this house, who's in there, how many people. Those are probably the most dangerous situations that I can remember being involved in were the B&Es.
Did you like it?
As simple as it sounds, but yeah.
Did you like the job? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. For me, anything that I do, I enjoy. I put 100% into it. Being a police officer was nothing that I grew up dreaming about. It was just an opportunity for me to get out of trouble, stay out of trouble.
How long did you do it for?
I did it for almost 12 years, so very, very close to 12 years, and then I retired.
And you did it. You retired to focus on a Kronk.
Yes, I retired to focus more on boxing and training fighters and training champions. I wanted to do the same thing that Emmanuel was doing, training champions, things that he's done in his life, training world champions, multiple world champions at the same time. And right now I'm in a situation where I'm just, continuing the legacy of that legend, Emmanuel Steward.
Before then, before 2007, how much time had you spent at the Kronk and how much time had you spent around Emmanuel and stuff? Obviously, you said that you've had a full-time job and career before that. Were you able to get down to the gym that often?
For me, I had a job, so sometimes Emmanuel would be in the gym earlier in the day before I get off work, and then later on I came down with my amateur team. But I lived with Emmanuel at that time, and so I would see him at home. The fighters would come by the house after the gym. I remember Prince Nassim Hamed was there, and we had a few pool games in the basement, and just things like that, which had kept me around the boxing and me constantly learning and just learning as much as I could to be better.
Emmanuel's obviously known as one of the great trainers. What was he like as a person?
He was a nice person, kind to everyone, taught me a lot in life. Some of the things he taught me was to treat somebody how you want to be treated. As simple as it sounds, but as I got older, I started understanding these things and realized how important they were. The things that are more important than getting my own feelings involved personally, but actually thinking about how that person feels. That's some of the most important lessons that I learned from him.
Did you box?
I boxed a little bit. I boxed amateur boxing off and on. Never had a good long run at it because I was always on punishment for my grades in school.
Right.
Simple as that. No good grades, no boxing gym.
Okay. And where did the sugar come from?
The sugar came from my grandmother. That was the nickname she gave me. She gave everybody a nickname, so I was Sugar Man.
And what was Emmanuel's?
Don't know. That's before my time, so I'm thinking it was just Emmanuel. It was Lil Emmanuel, I think that's what it was, because his father, he had the name of his father, so Lil Emmanuel, yeah.
When someone says 555 McGraw Street, what comes to mind?
Kronk, the original Kronk boxing gym.
Does it trigger any kind of emotion in you?
Sometimes it does. Right now, since you're in front of me smiling, no, it's not triggering any kind of emotions. And the emotion would be sadness or something like that, But there's a lot of history in that gym. If I saw a picture of it, I probably would have more emotions than you just sitting here.
I suppose the thing is as well with you being over here in the UK, whether it be any kind of homesickness because you're that fond of the place. And
I was
everything it
raised
stood
in
for.
that gym.
Yeah.
I mean, before I started boxing, just me going over to Emmanuel's house when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. And me and my sister going over there to play with, my cousins Sylvia and Savette, his daughters, and being over there. I remember me being over there, and we're playing outside or something like that. And then I can remember my aunt asking me, my Aunt Marie, she would say, "You want to go to the gym with your uncle?" And I'm like, yeah.
Was he your actual uncle?
Yeah,
Like
my mother and him, my brother and sister.
Okay.
There was 3 of them. My mother, Laverne, Emmanuel, and then my Aunt Diane.
Who was the first champ you met from the Kronk? Do you remember?
Nah, they were all amateurs. So I guess the first champ from Kronk would be Homer Kenty.
Okay.
He was the first world champion.
Has he got an electronics shop now?
No, I don't think he has an electronics shop. He's into politics.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's into politics in the city of Detroit.
But you mentioned Milton earlier. Milton McCrory's still around the gym.
Yeah, Milton McCrory, former WBC welterweight champion, and one of the fighters that I'm more closer to than anybody from the old guys. Milton always looked out for me when I was young. Him and his brother Stevie McCrory, who was the '84 gold medal winner. Me and him were
Fought
close.
Jeff Fennett, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who also wound up at the Kronk.
Yeah. Funny how that works, huh?
Back in the day, obviously kids would settle their differences with fists, and now there's knives, guns. Obviously, having been in the police, you've seen all of that. But the Kronk was something that was meant to be a fair and even-handed way out, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Kronk gym helped a lot of young Detroiters or young people in life, as far as giving them another avenue of life other than what they've been used to and what they're used to seeing in their household and in their communities. Being a part of the Kronk boxing team allowed you to travel, allowed you to meet people that were successful, that come from the same environments that they've come from, and to be able to relate to them and say, man, like, I'm around this person and they made it, then it puts them in the mind, the kids in the mind frame that I can make it too, you know. And everybody always helped everybody else out. Crunk is like a family, and that's one thing I always speak about is Crunk being a family. All those old fighters, those are like my, you know, big brothers and cousins. The same way, like for me, Andy Lee is like a brother to me, and Andy Lee and Tyson are cousins, so that's like my cousin. So now that I'm here even more, then Tyson feeling like a brother. So it's a close knit, you know, relationship with the Crunk boxing team, and it's always been that way since I was a young boy traveling on those trips with Emmanuel and Tommy and Milton when they were just amateurs. I saw the close bond that those guys had, and that's something that stays in me, and that's how I raised my fighters, and how I still do it now, because it's you know, it's a stronger bond, and you get more success that way.
You know, I was thinking that the heating's on in here, and it's probably the hottest room in the facility. And I was thinking, you're gonna struggle with a coat on and stuff. But this is cool for you in the Kronk, isn't it? By the Kronk thing, because it's a famous thing where the temperature's just cranked all the way up.
The original Kronk gym, the temperature was about 108 to 112 every day.
But even I remember when Emmanuel was in the Poconos, he would crank all the heaters up and put everything on. He loved the guys to be in a hot environment, didn't
He
he?
liked it, I love it. So yeah, I'm the same way. Training, working out here in Malcolm with Tyson, the heat has to be up. When we trained in Las Vegas for Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 2, the heat had to be turned up. I needed that heat turned on in that gym. I needed it hot. People don't realize it, I guess, that when you have the gym hot, you get less injuries. You're warmed up. You warm up a lot faster than a cold gym. For me, it's no other way to work out than in a hot gym. I don't care if I'm playing basketball. I like hot yoga too. So yeah, that's one thing I really enjoy is the hot yoga, because you warm up and it's about as hot as the gym used to be, the Kronk gym.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it makes
sure.
you feel like I'm back at
And
home.
you're dripping. People,
just don't
people
have
who
that
haven't done it, you're
Listen,
absolutely soaking.
the hot yoga just don't have that Kronk smell. The old gym had a very, very unique smell about it. And most people say it stink when you first come down there, but after being there for years, I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, it was a great feeling just to, that mixed with the heat, like, yeah, it's work time.
Kronk was known for the spars it's had over the years, among many things, obviously producing a conveyor belt of champions, which was like the Ford production line. But the spars, I mean, are there any that spring to mind where you think, wow, in terms of the best spars you've seen in that place?
For me, it was a different, like I was in the gym in and out, so I saw sparring. I wasn't one to remember a lot about the boxing back then because I was young and I had other things on my mind.
You had another career as well, yeah.
And also before that, when I was young, I was seeing those guys spar. I would see them fight. I couldn't tell you who was fighting. I just saw the gold and red being raised, the hands being raised, you know, at the end of the fight. That's what I remember. I remember the rest of the team around cheering for each other and that hand being raised. So for me as a kid going to those fights, you know, with Emmanuel, I was running around and just having to look at the ring and be like, oh, okay, winning. And I go back playing with some other kids at the fights or in the gym, things like that. When I got older, I was working. I had a full-time job as a police officer in Detroit. And when I got off work, I went to pick up the fighters that I trained, my amateur team. I would pick them up, which was about 10 of them every day, and then take them to the gym. And by the time I get to the gym, Emmanuel was gone. So those are things I wanted to be around them, but I had a job to do.
Yeah,
so I
logistics
couldn't
didn't
just
work
say
out.
like, oh, I would just, you know, miss out on the kids. I just trained extra hard, you know, so I could one day put myself in that position and put those kids in that position. Where now we're training at this time, we know where the pros train. There was a time where pros trained, amateurs trained. Amateurs trained after school, which was like after 3 o'clock, you know, pretty much. So, but everybody wanted to train when the pros trained, because that's where the big dogs were.
Sure. Yeah, that's where the motivation
Yeah,
comes.
so all the champions trained pretty much.
So one thing that, I don't know if it was Emmanuel or if it was the success of the Kronk, but the city actually got behind the Kronk, didn't it? Like,
You know what?
Politicians, everyone involved in Detroit seemed to do something with the Kronk.
You know what? It was a different era then. And yeah, the communities were more tight-knit than they've been over the years as of later. Yes, the Mayor Coleman Young was behind the Kronk boxing team, you know, 100%. Like I said, the Crunk Gym was a pride of Detroit. It was like it was and it still is like an official team of Detroit. It's Detroit's boxing team.
So like the Pistons, like the
Like
Lions,
the Pistons.
everything.
Let's say the Red Wings too, because they win.
Okay.
So yeah, it's an iconic Detroit team, the Detroit Crunk boxing team. There are other teams in the city, and they have great fighters too. But just the Detroit Crunk team is just the original Crunk Gym from Detroit.
When you first met Andy Lee, was that the first day that he was there and he sparred with K9? Were you there that day?
I don't want to say. I mean, no, I wasn't there.
Okay.
I just see the pictures and it makes me feel like I was there. And I came a little bit later, so I missed it because I had to work.
Sure.
Shucks, work.
What were your first impressions of Andy, who, like you said, has become a friend?
My first impressions of Andy, we didn't have a relationship. We didn't really talk that much at all. So I didn't have any kind of impression of it, really. I was just like, oh, he's here. He's the new guy here. Emmanuel, thinks very highly of him. And for me, in that situation, I stay out the way. I was always taught, don't mess with nobody else's fighters. So for me, I'm just watching what Emmanuel does with Andy, watching how he trains him. And Andy lived with us at that house. We all stayed in the same house. So I'm just watching things and learning and just taking in a lot. We became very close after a few fights, so I always kept my distance with him, just because I was Emmanuel's fighter. And I trained fighters, and I had my amateur team as well. So Emmanuel was taking Andy on a different path, and I had my fighters on a different path because they were amateurs.
Just rewinding a bit, how devastating was the fire? And I don't mean physically to the building, but in terms of all the memories and everything that was in the Kronk when the fire came.
In 2005, what happened to the gym was someone broke into the gym and stole all the copper piping.
Okay.
That was happening very frequent in the city of Detroit, where buildings and homes were being broken into for copper to resell.
Right.
That was a big thing going on at that time. And the gym had been broken into and vandalized and destroyed twice. And the city decided to close that gym down, the recreation center. It was a city recreation center. And the city decided to close that down instead of investing back into that building to keep it open and to, be a part of that community, which so much needed it.
Because fight fans around the world want these legacy buildings to be looked after, like Joe Frazier's gym in Philadelphia. Like, people want them to be kept, whether it's museums and stuff, but there's just no practicality attached to that, I guess.
I mean, there could be, but, for me, I'm emotional about the Crunk Gym because I was raised in there since I can remember being a young boy. And, for it to be gone, I had dreams of saving it myself and trying to do something, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of resources and things like that to really make something like that happen. And it being vandalized and destroyed, and then what do you have then? You have those memories. And I don't even think I've been past that gym since it's been burnt down.
Oh, really?
I used to go ride past it every once in a while when it was just an abandoned gym. And been in there a few times, looking at things, seeing things that are still there in the gym, grabbing a few things myself, just having memories and things like that. Did a couple of video recordings, but for the most part, it's a sad memory for me, and it's hurtful that the gym is gone and it wasn't saved as I thought it should have been saved by the city or something like that, for it being what it has been for the city.
Yeah, sure. We talked about some of the OGs, so Hilmer and the McCrorys and guys that were around back in the day. Later on, obviously, Emmanuel took on a whole wealth of fighters, like, you mentioned Naz and Lennox and stuff. He also got this tag where he was like a mercenary, like a hired gun.
Yeah.
Was that fair, that he was sort of known as that? I mean, obviously, in some ways that's a compliment, but also in other ways it's like a bit of it's a backhanded compliment, because it's like saying he's got no loyalties, he'll just go where the money is.
Well, I never looked at it that way. I've always took it as a positive. He's a hired gun. It's almost like it was a movie, Friday Night Lights. It said, if you want to win, put Booby in. He was a football player. But yeah, if you wanted to win, you go hire Emmanuel. It wasn't that he was a traitor, like he wasn't loyal. This is the first time I'm hearing about it like that. It was always to me like, hey, go hire the best. Emmanuel worked with Oliver McCall, and then Lennox Lewis wanted him. Emmanuel and Oliver McCall didn't have a long-standing contract or anything like that. It was just one fight, and that was it. So yeah, I never looked at it as him being a hired gun, like a traitor or anything like
That's
that.
a great story though, wasn't it, in itself? The fact that he was in McCall's corner of the night he beat Lennox, then Lennox hired Emmanuel, and
Yeah,
he was in the corner of the night Lennox beat Oliver McCall.
yeah, that was smart. That was smart of Lennox.
Did Emmanuel talk to you? Did he catch you up with stuff like stuff that had happened in the gym, like when he fell out with Michael Moore and stuff like that? Did you guys talk about all that sort of stuff? Did you pick his brains over relationships and the big names he'd worked with
No, believe it or not, I didn't pick his brain on a lot of things.
that you should have?
We had no. It wasn't that I should have. I kind of knew what was going on. I didn't have to ask about it. I was close enough, around the boxing and stuff to know what's going on without having to ask, or to even try to bring up old bad memories or whatever. So for me, that's not my personality to go and bring up old stuff. Trying to find out more about it when I have a full understanding of what
I
happened.
didn't necessarily mean like dig around for like dirt and stuff like that. I meant like, did you just talk to when you were talking about just old memories and stuff? Going to fights, and he would ever say, "Oh, I did this stuff with Michael," and all that sort of stuff.
Well, we talked, but Emmanuel never brought up those bad things either.
Yeah.
He would always bring up the good things. He never was one to ponder about the bad things about someone.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I didn't ever look at it as. I still don't look at these guys as bad people. They're human beings. They have a choice to make in life. Everybody's gonna make the choice they want to make. You can't force anybody to make the choice that you want them to make. Sometimes people have to make their choices and learn on their own. That's called learning the hard way, or just it's called experience. I've had fighters where I've trained them and then they left me because they wanted to make some decisions on their own. They wanted to control their own life. And for me, I said, fine, go ahead.
Let me shout some names at you and tell me what you think. Jonathan Banks.
Jonathan Banks was a good fighter and also turned into a good trainer. He was come through the Crunk program and had success, which very few people have, having success as an amateur boxer, as a professional boxer, and as a trainer.
What about K9?
K9, he had a rough road. Nobody thought he would be world champion. He ended up being world champion through the help of Emmanuel. He was fighting for eliminators, like three title eliminators. And I remember begging Emmanuel, like, please, like, help us, because we're going to have to do another title eliminator. And we should be fighting for the title already. So, yeah, K9, one of those stories where you never thought he'd be a world champion, and here he is. He had nothing. He didn't have a home, really. He's eating peanut butter and crackers, and one of those stories where, this guy, he was in the gym every day, training and everything like that. And his hard work and dedication brought him to become IBF,
Light middleweight champ.
light middleweight, 154 world champion.
Did you work with Anthony Durrell?
Anthony Durrell still is my fighter. I've been knowing him since he was 15 years old. And he beat one of my fighters. He wasn't a Crunk fighter at that time, but he beat one of my fighters in the state championships. And I just so happened to be the head coach for the regionals.
Okay.
So I represented, I was the head coach for the state going into the regionals. So now Anthony just beat one of my fighters, and now I have to treat him like one of my fighters. And we became close ever since. I never had a grudge on him because he won to beat my fighter, which I know some coaches do. I was taught not to. Everybody's young, everybody's learning. We're all humans, and you never take a grudge on a fighter. I guess similar to how Emmanuel ended up training Lennox Lewis, huh?
What about Ruslan Chagayev? You worked with him, haven't you?
I did work with Ruslan Chagayev.
How did that all come about?
Ruslan came to America. He wanted to train, and he came to Detroit, wanting to train at Crunk. I was the trainer at the time, and we worked together for a few years. And it was a good working with Ruslan. He had a lot of experience, taught me some things. 'Cause I tend to learn from all my fighters, so as I'm teaching them, I'm actually learning and absorbing information from them.
Sure, because he was a decorated amateur who had hundreds of fights, so it's not like he was coming to you as a rookie.
He was also former world champion at that time too. Yeah.
So being the WBA champ, because I was at his fight in Germany with Matt Skelton when he defended against Skelton from over here. So yeah, so he picked up a few bits, and it's good to be an open book to realise the worst trainers are the guys that think they know it all, right?
Listen, like I just said, I learn from all my fighters. Every fighter I train, I learn from you. So me saying that I know everything. I don't know everything. I never did know everything, and I'm still learning. I'm learning from Tyson. I'm learning from Huey. I'm learning from Othie. I'm learning from everybody I come in contact with. Yeah, I guess I'm cheating, huh?
Tell me about Adonis Stevenson and your relationship with Adonis.
I had a close relationship with Adonis Stevenson. He was world champion for 5 years. He came seeking Emmanuel Stewart, the Crunk Gym, to better his career, better his skills. He didn't get a chance to work with Emmanuel for a long time because Emmanuel passed away, and Adonis was I guess free to do what he wanted to do, and he chose me. He said, "Listen, I want you to train me because you train like Emmanuel," and we had a little bit of relationship, but he said, "And I trust you." That's pretty much it. From there on, it's history. He learned, and we had a great year. He was Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year. All this was in 2014 after Emmanuel passed. So it was just, me and him continuing what Emmanuel started and, keeping that name out there, just keeping Emmanuel's teachings going, through history still.
And then he had the loss to Gvozdyk, which was life-changing in many ways. How hard was that, and the what happened afterwards?
Adonis Stevenson and Gvozdyk fight was a hard fight for me. It bothered me a lot. For me as a trainer, I always feel like I care for the fighters, and I always hear from other people saying, "Don't fall in love with these fighters. They turn on you," so forth. All the stuff that you would hear about anybody else or in any other sport. But I've always had feeling for the fighters because going into this, we have to have a certain special bond. So the Adonis Stevenson fight, at some point, I blame myself because I'm supposed to be the one looking out for him, and for him to be in that position, being hurt like that. I'm the trainer. It's like being a parent. Something happened to your kids, you kind of feel responsible for it, and I felt responsible for it in certain ways. After that fight, felt a lot better when he made it through all the surgeries and came to. So he's able to live, and we're able to talk and laugh and have memories and things like that. So it's a big lift for me that he made it out of there, because a lot of the fighters going through the same things he went through, they don't make it, or they don't make it back as far as he did, and he's an exception for getting this far in his life right now with those kind of injuries.
Were they your darkest boxing-related days, the aftermath of that?
Definitely. Those are the times I wish I had Emmanuel around to talk to him about, but I didn't. So I would just think, what would he do?
What would he have done?
I guess what I've done. I'm sure he would have blamed himself in certain ways, but the truth is,
accepting responsibility rather than blame.
Well, I don't know. I look at it as blame myself because I'm hard on myself.
Yeah.
Just what could I have done better? What could I have done different?
Learn from
Those
it.
kind of things go through your head so much. And for me, in that situation, what could I have done? Just thinking, what could I have done? Replaying it in my head over, like did I see any signs? Just trying to look at everything. Try to find an answer to it, and try to make it make sense. But there is no answer. It happened, and it's a part of boxing, this sport, and other sports. So we just have to learn how to keep living. And like I said before, very thankful that he's alive, and we're able to talk about it.
Do you have an internal conflict over coaching these guys to go out to battle to possibly sustain damage either in the short term or in the long term? Obviously, having been in the sport as long as you have, about CTE, punch drunk syndrome as it used to be called, and obviously we've got the concussion crisis with the NFL and head injuries. Do you ever find yourself in turmoil about being involved in the sport at that level?
Never.
Because you can't afford to be.
I don't think of it as affording to be. I think of these fighters as my family, as children. I treat them as children. I have to be able to. My job is to take care of that fighter. My job is to look out for the well-being and safety of that fighter. Period. So I don't get into thinking about it so much like like you mentioned. It doesn't never cross my mind until I'm hearing it from you at this point in time. They're like family. So yeah, I'm treating them like I would want somebody to treat me.
I spoke to Andy. I've had a similar chat with him, and he talked about Emmanuel's decline, which for boxing fans came out of nowhere, really, because it was all very quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quick. It was quick for everybody. Quick for me. Quick for him, I would believe. And yeah, it was a shock to everyone. It was a more shock to everyone else because obviously I did know before the public knew, but just wasn't, allowed or wanted to say anything about it. I was in training camp with Vladimir Klitschko at that time, so it was a difficult training camp for me, being around and having to be strong for everybody else because I knew everybody was watching me.
With hindsight, if you'd realised you'd have, when you left the police, if you realised you'd just have 5 years with Emmanuel in the gym, would you have left the police earlier?
No, I don't regret anything in my life because the things that happened in my life happened for a reason that put me in the position where I'm at right now. If anything changed or altered, then we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now.
Tell me about your relationship with Dimitri Salita.
Dimitri Salita came to Detroit seeking Emmanuel, and I've been saying this over and over again. Emmanuel was busy.
Someone will find you one of these days.
Yeah, so Emmanuel was busy, and I ended up training Dimitri. Emmanuel told Dimitri, I'll train with my nephew. He's a good trainer, and so forth. From there on, I was training Dimitri Salita as a fighter, and we've had about maybe 6 fights together. And it got to a point where it was just like, if you can't keep this intensity up and not performing on the level that you would like to be performing and that I think you could perform as well. He was promoting his own shows at that time too.
Sure.
So it was just like one or the other. Put more interest into one or other. And the choice was promoting.
Yeah, so, and then you've done shows together.
Yeah, me and Dimitri Salita, we work very, very close together. If he have any questions about boxing, he asks me about training fighters, or if any fighters are any good, and if I have any questions on the promotion side about anything, then I talk to him. Me and Dimitri are very close. We have dinner a lot together, talk boxing, we relax, barbecues, things like that. So him actually moving to Detroit was, I guess, part of my plot as well, to start doing boxing in Detroit, to bring back boxing in Detroit, was to have Dimitri Salita there to help promote shows and to, bring back that rich history in Detroit, which was boxing. And Dimitri has done a great job so far. He's put on great shows, great competitive shows. The fighters in Detroit, a lot of fighters have been on Dimitri's card. He's signed, fighters from Detroit, giving these guys opportunity to further their careers and become champions. And things are going great so far.
And at the back end of the year, last year, you did get a phone call, and it was someone wanting you and not Emmanuel, and it was Tyson.
Yeah.
And although obviously Tyson had experience with Emmanuel before, and you'd spent time with him, I think you'd spent time with Emmanuel and Tyson together before, hadn't you?
Yeah, I probably spent more time with Tyson than Emmanuel did.
Yeah. And he said, "I've got a fight," and you didn't have a whole lot of notice for the Wilder fight either, did you? Were you in camp 7 or 8 weeks, if I remember?
The camp was 8 weeks. 8 weeks for the fight, yeah. So it wasn't a lot of time, but what makes it more exciting than not having enough time and being the underdog and being talked about and everything? What makes it even so much better?
I remember coming out to Vegas, you said that the plan was to put it on Wilder and to go for him, and everyone thought you were bluffing.
Yeah. I guess they know now, right?
Yeah, there was no bluff.
Just tell the truth.
It was a double bluff.
It's better to just tell the truth. I'm not into lying so big and trying to play these mental games, and that's, either you can fight or you can't fight. Either you can teach it or you can't teach it. Don't have to go through all these loops and holes to try to get a win. Train the fighters to do the best they can and to be successful. And then bam, you get a spectacular knockout in the 7th round.
Did it go as you envisaged?
I thought it would go quicker.
Did you? Okay.
I thought 2nd round as well.
But then the referee could have been criticised for making it or for allowing it to go on. Obviously, it was Mark Breland, a former Kronk fighter. There's all these conspiracy theories going around.
Everybody's got an opinion about something that they don't have nothing to do with or know nothing about. All those things to me were, they were funny. They were interesting. they kept the fight alive, through this Corona and COVID, time. And they're still doing it right now to this day. They're still talking about that fight. That was such a great fight. It's being talked about, whether it's being talked about as a conspiracy or as a great fight, it's still being talked about. And it's good for the fight. If people want to believe that certain things happened, that as an excuse for the fight the way it turned out, then
Would you have done what Mark did?
probably so. I'm going to protect my fighter. Just previously before that, Anthony Durrell was fighting in September, and I stopped his fight. And I asked some questions about. People ask questions why you stop it, and I told him his eye was cut; he couldn't see. The referee didn't stop it, so it was my job to stop it. It's my job. My first job and priority is to take care of my fighter. It's for the safety of the fighter.
Do you think Wilder will be the same as he was before that, or do you think this aura of, I wouldn't say invincibility, but do you think he's lost something that he won't get back now after that loss?
I couldn't really tell you that. I don't know Wilder so much like that for me to even have a full say on my opinion about it. It would be unfair for me to have an opinion not knowing him. But for me, the way I think is positive. So I think he would bounce back and be the same fighter that he was. He's always going to be dangerous. All he needs to do is get back in that ring again. If Tyson and Wilder would be fighting for the third time, it would be as dangerous of a fight as it was the first time, the second time, any time they get in the ring together.
I suppose when you look at how Klitschko motivated himself to come back from the defeats he had to Brewster and Corey Sanders, they didn't damage him permanently in the ring, did they? In terms of his mindset or anything.
No.
In fact, they stiffened his resolve because he said, I remember on the cover of Boxing News at the time, we had the headline "Broken Man," and he used that as motivation to when he went into camp.
There you go. So Wilder will have his opportunity. Like I said, I'm positive. I'm an optimist, so I believe that he'll bounce back. He's lost before. He lost. He had a bronze medal. That's a loss. So he bounced back from that to be the champion with the highest heavyweight champion with the highest knockout ratio, knocking everybody out. That's a bounce back right there. So what would make me not believe he wouldn't bounce back from a Tyson Fury defeat?
Do you run the Tyson Fury show when you're in camp? I know you're on vacation now, so I'll point that out. But when you're in camp, do you run the show?
100% vacation, yes.
apart from me hassling you, do you run the show when you're in camp, or is that not how it's structured? Is it more like a fluid thing and see who wants to do what when, or do you say, right, we're going to the gym at 9 a.m.?
We all work together. Tyson knows his job as a fighter and his obligations to doing interviews and things like that. And we all work around these things because this is a part of it. You can't just sit and say, I'm not doing any interviews, I'm not doing nothing. I'm the fighter, and that's all it's supposed to be. This ain't the Mike Tyson era no more, with people so much believed in, like, I'm just a fighter. I'm just a raw fighter, come in with just a towel on, come knock somebody out and leave. No, it's a business, and I have to mention Floyd Mayweather for understanding this is business, because he's also changed the game of boxing and made people really understand that it is a business. It's a business for the fighters as well as it is for the promoters. And the game has changed, due to Mike Tyson and due to Floyd Mayweather with his business look on things.
What's it like being out with Tyson in public, because he's so recognisable and all the rest of it? Have you been around anyone like that where people just mob them?
I've been around Emmanuel Stewart.
In Detroit?
Throughout the world. I mean, they know everybody know who Emmanuel Stewart was. He just wasn't as tall as Tyson Fury, so you don't get noticed like that from a distance, but when they're in the area where they can see him and they recognize him, yeah, they know who Emmanuel Stewart was. They know who Lennox Lewis was. They know who Vladimir was. I've been around all these people. Tommy Hearns, Milton McCory. Everybody knows who you are. Just maybe because of your height, you may not get seen as much. But Tyson Fury gets seen a lot, being 6'9", 275. So for me, being around him, it's kind of normal. This is his hometown. We go to different places, and the treatment is the same as being around all of these champions that I've been around my whole life. It's nothing any different. Maybe that's why I'm so calm about it, because I've been raised around this my whole life. And it's just like, waking up, doing it again. Here we are again in the same spot with the heavyweight champion of the world.
Are you still in touch with Tommy?
I talk to Tommy. I talk to all the old guys still. Like I said, we're a family, so we don't talk every day. Never have.
How's Tommy doing?
Listen, Tommy was older than me, at least 13 years older than me, I believe. So we never really had these great conversations like some people may believe
Yeah.
because of the age difference. The only fighter that I'm really close to is Milton McCory. We had a 10-year age difference, but Stevie was younger. He had nieces, nephews that around my age. So, and Milton also stayed around the corner from Emmanuel at the time. At one point in time, so I would always go around his house because that's where all the action was at.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people over there, and playing cards and things like that. So that's where I hung out at, and that's why I'm closer with the McCorys than any of the Crunk, any of the Crunk family, any of the Crunk team members from back in the day.
Because at the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, Tommy still seemed to want to fight Marvin Hagler when they were up on stage.
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Do you believe that? Do you believe he would?
I'm sure he would. I mean, he's a fighter. What more can you expect from him? He's a Hall of Fame legendary fighter.
With Tyson, he's such a big guy, as you say, 6'9", 275. How long do you think he's got with the speed and reflexes he's got? Because they're not something that last into old age, are they?
Well, he's young still. So you look at Father Time. These fighters now have been champions. When did George Foreman win a championship? How old was he? He was 40,
45.
right?
Yeah, about 45.
Over 40. Over 40. So Tyson's 32? Yeah, so he can go as long as he wants to go. With his skills, his talent, his mind, as long as he keeps his mind, focused on doing what he wants to do and having plans and having goals, Tyson can go as far as he wants to go.
You're like this. There's the Kronk critique that people say is that the Kronk fighters are all tall right-hand punchers. Do you know that? Like they're almost one-dimensional. Have you heard that? You must have heard that.
I've heard it, but I don't believe it. It's good that people think that because then they don't know how to fight us then, right? They think it's just one-dimensional, but it's not. It's a lot goes into, using that one hand to be such a deadly weapon to get knockouts. Even softballs. Michael Moore was a softball, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Donna Stevenson was a softball, so it's not just.
Well,
it's
some
not
of those
just
guys
the
aren't tall
right-handers.
right-hand punchers either.
So it's not just. That's just a myth.
Do you
But
think that's
it's
a
a good
myth born
story.
out of jealousy?
Pardon me?
A myth born out of jealousy? Do you think it's just come from, haters?
It's just a myth that makes it even more exciting. I'm an optimist, so yeah, I don't know if it's the haters doing it or not. Some people just, it could be a good thing. Man, they all good, great punchers, they're right, tall, right. That's not always a bad thing to say.
Yeah.
They winning.
Doesn't matter how.
Can't be how bad. It can't be that bad if they out there winning.
Who is the best fighter that the Kronks produced?
Best ever.
Yeah.
Bernard Mays.
Okay.
Bernard Superbad.
Superbad.
Mays. Yeah, you know about that.
I know a little bit.
Yeah,
I know a little bit.
That was the best. I didn't get a chance to see him and understand boxing when I was watching him, so. But everybody's saying it, so it can't be.
He broke Tommy's nose when they were kids, right?
I don't know.
Did you not know that?
I don't know.
I can teach you about the.
I'm sure you probably can, but yeah, I don't know it. I don't know it firsthand. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things happened. Bernard.
Sure.
Bernard was he was bad. Everybody's saying the same thing, so I know it's not a lie.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna lie and say, "Oh, he was okay." No, all of them say it, and they say it with chill bumps. Like, no, he was that good.
Yeah, for people who don't know, that there was times where Emmanuel and other observers who'd been around a long time said he was a cross between Ray Leonard and Ray Robinson.
My favorite fighter, Ray Robinson.
So, that's not a bad compliment, though, is it, for Superbad?
Not at all.
We talk about all those big names, more than 40 world champs from the Kronk.
Including the ones that I train. We could just keep adding those to the numbers.
Yeah? Is that what you're doing? You're going to add those to the numbers already, or you're going to start your own little category?
I have my own. I have fighters that I've trained, but they still fall under, that Kronk, original Kronk Detroit.
But we talk about these numbers and these great fighters, but there are some guys that didn't make it. And this is where we talk about earlier at the start, where we talk about the street and different things. The Kronk hasn't been able to save everyone, has it?
No, it hasn't, and that would never be done in history from any gym or any organization, because You can take a high school graduating class. How many graduate from high school out of 300?
And how many?
And how
will
many of them
shoot?
end up being successful or fall by the wayside? So it's just a part of life in every dimension. And there's nothing that can be done about it. Those are just the numbers. Everybody's not made to an equal to be successful. So you got to have some, some succeed and some fail.
Because the lure of the streets has accounted for quite a few guys. There was Dwayne Thomas who was shot, and not always the streets, but Octavio Lara. I remember Emmanuel being so hot on, who didn't make it. Ricky Warmack, prison and suicide. Dujan Johnson was shot. Caveman Lee did time. Alvin Hayes and Bernard Mays, who you mentioned. These guys, but it's the Kronk gave these guys an opportunity. But how do you get that record up? Do you know what I mean? How do you get these guys out, or is it changed? Obviously, I'm talking about things now that happened 30, 40 years ago. Is it still the same? Is it still the same battle between the gym and the street and everything else?
It's always going to be that battle between good and evil.
And in those environments,
in any field, it's not just boxing. It's in every sport. I mean, you got these. You've heard stories about soccer players, football players that were so good and didn't make it too, as well. Is it any sport? It's just,
of course.
It's just the way we live as humans. Everybody's not going to make it. You're going to have distractions. You may have all this talent, but you may not have the willpower to stay away from the streets. It just takes more than just having that skill. It takes for a person to be a complete person in a certain way to get to that point. And everybody doesn't hold those characteristics and are that strong to stay away from the streets. Or I don't want to keep saying streets, but it could be other things. They could a fighter or another athlete can have a child. That athlete could fall in love. That athlete, something could happen to their parents where they have to sit there and now go out and work and be the breadwinner. So it's not just the streets to say that these athletes fall. It's just life.
Yeah, of course. Is there one that you've lost that you wish had stuck with you?
Not exactly. You got some of the weirdest questions. Something I never think about. Like, is there one that got away?
I try to come at things from a different angle.
It's like the one that got away. I don't know. I don't look at it that way because I just stay. I mean, I've seen Emmanuel go through so many things, and that's a big advantage for me to understand it. So I'm emotional, but I don't get emotional to where it slows me down, where it breaks me down, because I know it's going to happen. I expect it to happen. But all I can do is do the best I can, learning from the mistakes that maybe Emmanuel have made, trying different ways to approach things to make things better. That's all I can do, and watch other people do things and maybe take some of their ideas and implement it into what I'm doing to try to further help people. I enjoy helping people, so I'm always watching and learning, but I do understand that I'm not going to be able to help everybody.
Sure, that makes sense. Can you just tell us about the case of Octavio Lara? Because I'm sure plenty of people out there wouldn't have heard the name, but I remember it so well from my early trips around America, because wherever I went, Emmanuel was there with him, whether it was in the Poconos or they went up to the Hall of Fame together once and did a pad session and stuff that I remember really clearly. And what happened with Octavio?
Octavio was one of Emmanuel's, highly talented prospects that he was grooming to be world champion, and just so happened that he got caught in a situation in the streets that changed his career forever, and he never really, got back from that. So Octavio, you know what? I talked to Octavio, and I know he was involved in a situation, and for him, I don't think that it really bothers him, like, oh, I made a big mistake, or I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or these decisions I made. Sometimes people don't realize from the outside that sometimes these fighters are fighting and maybe don't even want to fight. They fight because maybe it's their father, or maybe it's their uncle, or maybe it's somebody pushing them, or something that's making them do something that they enjoy doing it, but it's not their love, it's not their passion. Boxing is a hard sport. And it was an old trainer at the gym named Walter Smith. He would say, to be a champion, you got to be crazy. you're missing something that what we call a normal person would have. You're missing some kind of characteristic of a normal person, and that missing component makes you a champion. It's not in place, but something crazy is there to make you want to go in there and box and get hit and be a champion.
True story.
So for me, my own personal opinion with Octavio, and I've seen other fighters the same way. They're great amateurs. They got a potential to be a world champion. They have a potential to shine, to do all the things that other people may want them to do, but it may be something that they don't want to do. There was a fighter named Roderick Moore. He lost to, I think it's Greg Page, 84 Olympic trials. But Roderick would beat Greg all the time, and Roderick was one of those that should have been on that 84 Olympic team. And I talked to him, and he was like, I never really wanted to box, but he was good at it. And I've come across fighters that don't want to box, but they're just good at it. It's something they don't want to do, no matter how good they are at it. Milton McCoy was the same way. He didn't really want to be a fighter. He liked baseball.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, I mean, sometimes you're in that position where you just say, hey, I'm good at this, I'll go ahead and do it. And sometimes you say, listen, I don't want to do it. I'm tired of this life. And, I think in a sense, Octavio might have had that in him, from doing it at such a young age, never really having a chance to live and be normal with other friends. He's always been on diets, always training, nonstop. Everybody can't do that. You got a fighter out there now, Devin Haney, he's been doing that his whole life, but he really loves it. So it's a difference.
For now, though.
But he's doing it, so we can't say for now or for then. He's doing it. He actually is doing it, and he's loving it. I remember him being in Detroit coming to train, and he was doing it then. The same look in his eyes, the same look he has now.
How proud are you, like, when you put on a Kronk item of clothing and you go
mean
out
like
for the
a
day?
Kronk item that nobody has, totally custom, can't get it anywhere? That kind of proud.
Like, do you walk around with a bit of a swag because you're proud to be associated with it?
I'm always proud to wear my Kronk stuff, my Kronk gear, because it represents where I came from. It represents my uncle, represents Detroit. So when I'm not at home, like Emmanuel was a hired gun, he still represented Detroit because he wore the Kronk. And everybody associated Emmanuel and Kronk in Detroit. So I'm still representing my city, Detroit, which I was born and raised, grew up. And, it's a proud thing. I don't have to wear, big Detroit hat and things like that. I wear the Kronk stuff. It still represents Detroit, and keeps the city, keep the city's name out there. And for me, also Kronk is like a family name. I remember meeting the great niece of John Kronk, which is the name of the Kronk Recreation Center was named after him. John Kronk. He was a Polish pioneer that helped pioneer that neighborhood in Detroit. And like a councilman and things like that. So he helped with that neighborhood, developing it back in the early 1900s. And I ended up meeting his great niece in Traverse City, Michigan, in a training camp with Adonis Stevenson. She moved up to Traverse City, but I got pictures with her, gave her some Kronk gear, because that's her real last name.
Yeah, of course.
It's Kronk. So it was good, and it was a pleasure to meet her. And to me, to me, I felt like she was part of my family. Because the relationship with my family using the Kronk name and what we've done for that gym and how things changed and where we are right now.
So are you a hired gun now?
Why not? That's how the West was won, ain't it? A gunslinger, a hired gun, whatever you want to call it.
But you also, you are trying to build something in Detroit, though, aren't you? You're trying to bring the amateur team back, that success that Emmanuel started with in the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, I brought the amateur team back in the 2000s. We had a strong team for maybe 10 years, like the #1 team in the country, and produced a lot of great fighters. Even some world champions came out of that same era. So I do want to get back. It's a little difficult for me being away for long periods of time. At the time when I was training fighters, I was in the gym every day. And that's a part of what made me successful and made the team successful, because I was there every day to spend time with these young kids, these young adults. And now being away, it's it doesn't feel right to me. It's hard. It's hard for me to come into the gym and train somebody for 2-3 months and then have to go away for a month or 2 months to a training camp. To me, it's unfair. So it's I got kind of mixed emotions about it. Like, how can I make this work? How can I make it work where I can stay at home and train these amateurs and help them out, and also, training fighters on the elite level. After
Sure.
After Tyson's fight with Wilder, the second fight, I made a comment, during an interview after the fight, where somebody said, "What are you gonna do now after the fight?" And I said, "I'm gonna go home and retire and start training, train amateurs to be champions again." And there was something that I didn't plan on saying it. Never even knew the question would come up like that, and that's just what came over me to say, because of the way I feel about the amateur program and actually teaching young people about life. It's not just about boxing, but when they with me, they get to travel all over the world. And when they were with Emmanuel, we did the same thing. We've always took these fighters out of their normal environment to new, different environments where they could see things, be exposed to different cultures, and give them a better chance at maybe wanting something different and becoming, not just a statistic, or just being stuck in the same place, thinking that they have nowhere to go, they can't get out.
Now, I know there's the wild card, but there aren't too many big boxing fortresses left.
Well, the wild card never had an amateur squad like Kronk.
No, sure. Yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm getting at is, do you think the days of these gyms where they're sort of these renowned gyms is coming to an end because people are on training camps and people are going to Vegas for 8 weeks, people are going to New York for 6 weeks, people are going to different camps, be it around the world? Or do you think that a dynasty such as the Kronk will happen again?
It's still happening right now, that dynasty.
Yeah, but such as the Kronk, not including the Kronk. I knew where we were going with that. But yeah, do you think it's possible with the way that the world is? And I don't mean under coronavirus, but in terms of a base coming and everyone going to that gym.
I can't really say. I don't know. I would think yes, because it just takes one gym to emerge with multiple champions and a great winning streak for it to happen. It didn't. The Kronk gym just didn't happen overnight. The gyms in Philly didn't happen overnight. Joe Frazier's gym, the Wild Card, these gyms didn't happen overnight. So right now, I believe that there's some gym out there that's training boxers and fighters, in that manner, to have an elite gym that will be part of the future of boxing.
So if you're not retiring now, when are you going to retire?
I still am retired right now.
Just
I'm
on vacation.
I'm on vacation right now.
Do you have
I've been on vacation for over 2 fortnights.
Do you have a plan, like a plan of how long you want to do it for?
No, not really. I never thought about a plan of how long, but I'm just happy that I retired from being a police officer,
No
and I've
regrets.
also retired from being a boxing trainer.
But then you can go back to being a boxing trainer, but not back to being a cop.
Yeah, I'm a little bit out of touch with the being a police officer now. That's gone by. We had to do so much training and things like that. It's easy to come back, to be a boxing trainer than it is a police officer at this time.
How are your cookout skills? Are they up there with the manuals?
Yeah,
Are they?
yeah.
Right up there with the manuals?
I
Because
didn't-
those are
I didn't-
legendary.
I didn't stutter. Who you think taught me how to cook, as well as train fighters?
Are you a better cook or trainer?
Both. I'll probably say cook, because I can cook all day. I can't train all day.
What's your specialist? Your special?
I like to get on the grill. I like breakfast. Yeah, I like the grill a lot. I'll throw anything on the grill, because with the grill I ain't got to wash dishes.
Emmanuel obviously did a lot of work for HBO. A couple of things on that. What do you think he would have made of the demise of HBO?
You know, maybe it wouldn't happen if he was still living. So can't really say. He would just just be one of those things that's lost in history for now. I always think it'll come back. Just give it some time. Things weren't going right for that for HBO, I guess, with the boxing and stuff like that. So having some time off, and maybe you have different people in different positions and different budgets or whatever. Something may happen where it comes back.
Is that something that interests you down the line, doing some TV stuff?
I'm doing it now.
Are you?
Look at my
No, but doing that, on a
I would love to do
regular TV work
commentating.
and
I would
that
love to
kind
do
of stuff.
commentating and things like that.
Yeah.
Something to keep me involved in boxing, and to for me to be able to teach. If I'm doing commentating, I'm actually able to teach the viewers what's going on in boxing, what to look for, and I think that'd be very interesting, and it'd be fun.
So there's talk now that Fury's obviously not going to fight Deontay Wilder, and everyone's expecting the Joshua fight or hoping for the Joshua fight. You told me that he's going to go and stick it on Wilder. He went and stuck it on Wilder. What happens when he fights Joshua?
Nothing different. I have full faith in Tyson Fury, as the top heavyweight, as the dominant heavyweight, as running boxing in a whole, because the heavyweights are still the big dogs on the block. Being the heavyweight champion of the world is more prestigious than any other weight division in boxing. So yeah, I think Tyson Fury is that fighter. I believe that 100%. I believe Tyson Fury changes the game of boxing.
Do you think he retires undefeated?
Yeah, why not?
Because that's heavyweight boxing.
He's still learning.
There aren't many fairy tales in boxing. That's why. You know that.
But you know what? To retire undefeated is really how really important is that?
Yeah, that's
to
true.
retire undefeated, One of the greatest fighters ever, Sugar Ray Robinson, he didn't retire undefeated. I don't really believe in, okay, you retire, you're undefeated. How important does that make or break your career? Does that make you more of a legend than somebody who's lost?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Look at Muhammad Ali and his legend.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I mean, it's just something that's out there. It was a record that had been broken for years. Rocky Marciano had it. Did not Floyd Mayweather has broken that record. But how much weight did it actually hold when Rocky Marciano was 49-0 and held that record for so long? It didn't hold that much weight in boxing. Like, that's the thing you talk about. That's the most important. It's not the most important thing to be an undefeated fighter, like in boxing, to me.
Well, someone said to me the other day, an undefeated fighter is an untested fighter.
I wouldn't say that's true. That fight has been tested, but I mean, were you going to keep on going till you get old and your skills diminish and you're going to just keep testing yourself like that? You have to look out for your safety first.
Have you had to tell a fighter yet to call it a day?
Yes.
How hard's that conversation?
It's not hard. It's the truth.
How hard is it for them to hear?
It's probably harder for them to hear it than me telling it. But yeah, I've said it a few times, and I wouldn't say it unless I've really felt that.
Have they all listened? Have they all retired?
No, of course not. They fighters.
Yeah, it's hard. It's the hardest thing that they'd have to hear, that it's time.
Yeah, do something different, make a change. You can still be involved in boxing. Look at me. I retired from fighting, and now I'm a boxing trainer. So yeah, you can still do something involved in boxing, if that's what you really love.
So what's the dream for the Kronk then? You want to have a base, a Kronk HQ, where you have an amateur team and you have a set of pros, but you also want to have this worldwide presence at the top of boxing's table. Is that right?
The dream for Kronk is to be like it used to be, turning out champions like the automotive industry turned out cars in Detroit. I'm reading from an article that I read from the Wall Street Journal with the manual on it.
Nice, fast cars, which is back where we started.
American Muscle. Harley Davidson sitting right outside. F-150 Harley Davidson. Supercharged.
Sugar, thank you so much for your time, man. I've really enjoyed it. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Gave me a chance to practice my skills as a commentator.
Yeah, it's good. And you got that winning smile that you turn on just like that.